Okay, so let's move on and take a look at some of the next steps that I do. Well, the first thing here is that we look at this, we've got this nice introduction now, but all of a sudden then you just got this link to a video. So there's no context. There's no introduction to the assignment. There's nothing going on that's going to take the students from this, hi, I'm your teacher, how's everything going, to actually doing the academic work. So we want to start to include that. And the two things I'm thinking of is we want to include some context for the assignment, something, and oftentimes I would think, what would I tell students if I were doing this in a live classroom with students in front of me? And then the next thing too is that we want to state the learning intentions. We know that stating learning intentions in a classroom, posting them, having them where having students have them in their head is important in education. They're also important in distance learning. So I want to, in some student-friendly way, without really stating what the learning intentions might be, to make them evident to what the students are going to be doing. Why am I doing this assignment? So let's take a look at how I might put those two things in. And I've added two short paragraphs, 2 to 3 sentences each. Shorter the better is really good because, again, we want to be very, very conscious of text dependency and too much text in an assignment. Although my target here, too, is going to be keeping everything on one page. One little caveat with that, too. It's probably evident, but this text up the top here that says version 3 with context and goals wouldn't be in the student version. That's just because we're doing it. I want that to be clear what we're doing as we go through it as a group. So here's the two additions I've got. I'm trying to add some context in this second paragraph, this first new one that I've added. In our first lesson this week, we'll continue exploring the world of technology and some of its key issues. Today's topic is cell phones and social media. Almost everyone has a cell phone today, and we love them because of how they allow us to connect with others. But is there a darker side to their use? One of the key things I'm trying to strike with this tone is a lot of students get hammered for how much they use their phone and how much they multitask and all these kinds of things. I don't want to approach it as that ogre. I really want to try to take as much as possible a neutral stance, and I've tried to craft this assignment in that way. I've used this with about between 50 and 100 students right now offhand, and I've only had one student react negatively to that as if it were someone kind of coming down on them and cracking down on them. The vast majority, 98% of the students, have reflected on it very positively. So I think I've got a good tone here, but that's one of the things I'm trying to get at with tone. But the general idea is I just want them to kind of, their brain to shift from this introduction to thinking about the topic. Now I'm kind of getting to this third one into a very light way to state what the learning intentions are without really having them to think about what they are. Now you could post them here directly. That might work with your students. I'm just doing it for this case in a little bit of a more subtle way. To explore this topic, we'll do a social media checkup of sorts. Reflect on our social media use, make sure we're happy with how we're using it, and decide to make adjustments if needed. The whole assignment will take about 45 minutes, half of which is watching a video. Let's begin. So again, this is kind of the why they're doing it, what the objectives are, so they can understand, start to get at what tasks I'm going to be asked to do. I also like to give them information about how long they can expect to spend with this assignment. That helps gear them up to the expectations of the level of work they need and setting aside that much time within their day or their current time right now to make sure they can do it. So if they've only got 10 minutes, they can think, oh, okay, I'm going to need to come back to this later, or I'll have to finish it later. But I want those expectations so they're not coming into this expecting it's going to take 10 minutes and like, when is this thing going to end? Preloading those expectations, I think, can be very helpful for students to actually accomplishing the task that you're asking them to do. So that's our next step to add. So going back to this similes and metaphor sample existence, you've got your introduction in there. The next step would be with this one, add these two components, add a little context for similes and metaphors, and then ask them kind of state what the intentions are, maybe in some student-friendly terms. A lot of different ways to do it. The key thing is that they're there. Off we go, and then we'll add our next component right after this.